Theme music, please. Aloha, I'm Mick Kalber.
And I'm Bruce Omori.
And together, we're on Hawaiian Time. On Hawaiian Time is a podcast where Bruce and I talk story about life, unfiltered, here on the Big Island. Okay, we've got a real great episode for you today. On Hawaiian Time, we're going to reflect back on the 2-year anniversary of the eruption right here in Leilani, the Puna eruption, which began in 2018 in Leilani Estates. And that's right where I'm sitting, along with my trophy wife, Ann.
Aloha.
And our illustrious producer, Tim.
Hey there, Mick.
And the amazing Bruce Omori.
How's it?
Bruce is joining us from his Extreme Exposure Gallery in Hilo. And Ryan Finlay, the famous Ryan Finlay, is joining us from Oregon. Ryan founded Hawaii Tracker, very important online group, a critical resource for residents during the eruption. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mick.
Okay, so it was 2 years ago on May the 3rd when this whole thing broke open. It started on Mohala Street in Leilani Estates, but on April 30th, just before that, Pu'uo'o, the vent that had been pushing lava out for almost 35 years continuously, actually collapsed. There were several days of constant earthquakes and a whole lot of nervousness in the neighborhood, on the whole lower East Rift Zone, actually. Annie and I were living here in Leilani, and it was an interesting moment in time, wasn't it, Annie?
Well, it really was. We were waiting for something. We knew something was going to happen.
Bruce, where were you at the day that the vent collapsed?
I happened to be at Paradise Helicopter's office in Kona, and I was talking to the marketing director, Dalen Mabuni, and we were talking about the changes that were happening at Pu'uo'o leading up to that time. And so I pulled up the USGS seismic activity chart, and there was this huge anomaly. Couldn't figure out what was going on, because if it's like, wow, well, what's this, So I told Dalen, must have been some kind of error, So, but anyway, this is what we look at when we are checking out the seismic activity. Lo and behold, that was the exact moment when Pu'uo'o collapsed.
Ryan, where were you at? When did you first get the news when that happened?
So I was here in Oregon at the time, and I had been paying pretty close attention to, because there was a bunch of weird things going on up there at Pu'uo'o, and that was significant, and so that had everyone's attention, and so yeah, I was paying pretty close attention, and I think it was within, a day or two, and we started seeing cracks forming in Leilani.
Yeah.
That's when I really started focusing on it, and I think Ikaika and they started mapping the cracks throughout the neighborhood, and I was like, so that's when I started digging in, like, well, what's causing these cracks? And there was kind of I don't know if you guys remember, but it was a kind of a cryptic message coming out of from USGS, where it was the only one that the public got, but it said that the magma, it basically said that there was an intrusion of magma that was causing those cracks, and nobody came out and said that an eruption or lava was imminent, but lava was pushing up, causing the ground to crack, and then we started seeing gases, and yeah.
When the cracks happened, we actually went down and talked to the scientists down there, and they wouldn't say, of course, it's imminent, but they said that something is happening here, and this, if it's going to happen, this would be the most likely place for it to happen. So, it was, I wouldn't say it's obvious, but it was definitely indicated. So, of course, nobody wanted to believe it, really. Nobody, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to hear it,
I think it might have been when USGS also, it had got, the question had gone to him, has this ever happened before? And somebody mentioned 1955, and so we started digging up maps, and we saw the old fissure line right straight through Leilani going down, And yeah, that's when, and again, there was no warnings being made to anybody at the time, other than what USGS was kind of hinting at.
So I'm just I'm sharing a post, and we'll put this up on our Instagram feed too, on Hawaiian Time Podcast.
I really stuck my neck out when I when I made this.
Ryan on Hawaii Tracker on May 2nd of 2018 posted a map, and he circled an area that had most of the earthquake activity. And pretty much, Ryan, can you explain that, sort of putting a warning out to people, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was, nobody knew what was going on, but it was very evident that we were looking at a potential eruption right in the middle of the neighborhood along that strip. And but there was no warnings. I just kind of felt that was really odd. And
the whole neighborhood, we were having earthquakes constantly. It was like someone was bumping the house, you know, and they were continually. So we knew something was happening. And to a certain level, it was kind of exciting to think about a new eruption. I just didn't want it in my neighborhood, you know. But there was something thick in the air. Something was happening.
Yeah, and at first, Andy's right. At first, they were just bumps, you know, just a single bump. And then after a while, they started bump up, you know, the things, and they became more frequent. But they were all building up, of course, to the big 6.9.
You know, it was interesting because I had met Mick and Bruce. Well, I'd met Mick probably 12 years ago, but I had met Bruce in 2017. We started a project called Hot Seat Hawaii, and at the time it was intended to be a sort of a lighthearted series, inviting a guest up to sit in the empty seat in the helicopter as they flew over the volcano and talk story and have coffee. And at that time, the eruption was relatively calm and approachable. And so I was in Connecticut when this started happening, and I was getting texts from Bruce and Mick saying, something's going on. I think this idea for our show is going to have to, you know, hit the back burner because this is something bigger and this and that. So I was like, should I fly out there? What do you think? And, you know, they didn't say, yeah, get out here. But Mick was like, well, if I were you, I would. So this was on, I think, maybe right after the collapse. And so I booked my ticket on May 2nd to come out. And then I saw that post that Ryan shared that said, looks like it could come up in Leilani. And then I knew I was going to stay with Mick and Ann in Leilani. So I was kind of freaking out. Like, what am I doing? And then we kind of went from there and just kept tracking and listening to people on social media like yourself, Ryan, and Hawaii Tracker, getting the info out. And Ikaika Marzo became a big voice on social media.
It was really interesting to watch the shift. We were, over the eruptions over many years ago when Pu'u'o first started, our only resource was a civil defense announcement. Now everyone was shifting from waiting for the county to tell us to suddenly listening to what was Ryan saying, what was Ikaika saying. You know, it really made a drastic shift, and it really at the same time saved us. The more information we could get, the better. And I can't tell you how thankful we are that these people just stepped up, and boy, they saved us. They really did.
It was really interesting the way that came down too, because what we learned in that was civil defense isn't going to tell us what's happening on a day-to-day basis. USGS isn't going to tell us what's happening. The police aren't going to tell us what's happening. There's nobody to tell the people really on the ground what's happening on a day-to-day basis. And it fell to social media. As Annie was just saying, it fell to Hawaii Tracker, to Ikaika Marzo, even to Bruce and I. Bruce and I were documenting the eruption. We weren't out there to provide information for everybody, but it became that. You know, and it was really a beautiful use of social media. You know, it was really, social media stepped up to the plate, because it's really not, it's not the job of USGS. They're not going to do that, you know, to inform people. And we had people out there dying. What's happening with my house? What's happening with the road? What's happening? You know, they wanted any information. And like I always say, living in the Puna, there's a whole bunch of Punatics that live out here, and I'm one of them, you know. And if you don't give them information, they flip out. You know, we all have a tendency to go out to Venus, you know. And if you give them information, you know, even if it's bad information, even if it's your neighbor's house burned down, your house burned, if they at least know what's happening, it brings them down to earth. It brings them down a notch, and we don't have the conspiracy theories and all the other crazy stuff that came out, because it did. People would go crazy if they didn't know what was happening.
Yep.
So it was a very valuable thing that Ryan, that all of us did, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that all started back in 2014 or 15 when,
Yeah. 14.
yeah, the Pahoa flow.
Yep.
The information that USGS and Civil Defense put out was far from what the people needed. So I think, when Mick, when you and I started flying and we started posting our photos along with our observations, I think that kind of, along with what everybody else was posting as well, from Pahoa and the guys hiking out into the forest and stuff.
Yeah.
It all added up to a real big movement on social media for providing that information everybody needed.
That's actually where I kind of originally had the idea for Hawaii Tracker. And actually back then in 2014, it was called Lava Tracker. And we were 6 months away from our family moving out to Pahoa, right in the middle of town. And that eruption was going on. And it was, it was a 24-hour-a-day disaster. The lava was coming straight down towards town. It was a significant deal. And the hunger and the desire for information, it was a 24-hour-a-day thing. Like, everyone wanted to know what's the latest. And the news, the traditional news, I mean, that they're typically, their news cycles like once a day. But then on top of that, there was USGS submitting their reports. And then there were you guys were flying back then, and you would get your videos and the photos plus your eyewitness accounts. And that's where I kind of had the idea, oh, what if we made a place where everyone we could gather all this information that's constantly coming out into one place where people could share this information. And then it was also a disaster. It was a place for people to encourage and comfort each other and let needs be known. And fortunately, we all know how that ended. Whatever is 100 feet short of Pahoa Village Road.
Yeah, that's right.
It was unbelievable. But it stopped, and went back up the mountain and eventually back out to the ocean.
And that was different. Pahoa was different. It was all the fear that came out. What's going to happen? And all the crazy theories that started, and nothing ever materialized really. Yeah. But then when it came out to Leilani and Kapoho, then it became angst. Then it became more than just a casual, what are we going to do if the road gets cut off? Then it was, will there be anything left? Was this going to turn into Pu'uo'o again? We're going to have something that's going to erupt here for years and years and years. And we wondered about that because it was like it was never, ever going to stop. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was.
I got to take a moment here to make a shameless promotion for the documentary we're working on. Have been working on for the last 18 months, and this thing has got to get done sometime soon. Now that the paying jobs have gone away, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. But I'm going to play a little clip from when the eruption actually started here, and maybe we can talk a little bit about this.
We get to Leilani and we fly all around Leilani and we see nothing. And then we land and we go about our business. I come home, and the next thing you know, it's erupting on Mohala.
Eruption in Leilani, no joke. Lava is coming out right now. What street is this, guys? Mohala Street. Mohala Street erupted. Oh my God, it's happening. It's happening.
And that's when all hell broke loose. And it was me, my cousin Andrew, and my cousin Bula. And the first initial thing was like, let everybody know.
Hello? Woo! See if anybody's home.
So we got on our Polarises and we ran to every road that was 3 roads, 4 roads away from Mohala. And we went to door. People are walking dogs, people are just cruising.
Do you guys live close? Yeah. Yeah, evacuate right now. The lava is pumping out right now. So.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. There's an eruption right here.
Okay.
Yeah, get out of here.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you very much.
You're welcome, guys.
So that's obviously Ikaika, and by that time, I think he'd already started developing quite a following on Facebook with all his updates about the cracks and things happening in Leilani. And Were you friends with Ikaika, or were you familiar with Ikaika, Ryan, at that time?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'd bump into him mostly down at Pohiki. You know, he was coming in and out, you know, fishing and things like that. So I'd see him down there in his boat. So yeah, I mean, I'd been connecting with him a few times in the previous few days because yeah, they were doing a lot of groundwork going around, mapping all the cracks. Which, you know, once we saw them on a map, you could see that they were in a straight line going right through the neighborhood, and you're just like, it was started. Oh my God, this isn't just random. Like, there's actually something's happening here. And
Tell me about the coordination, because you're in Oregon, right? And
yeah.
And at that point, are you sort of a one-man operation? What was Hawaii Tracker like at that point? Because I know obviously things ramped up with your coverage as the eruption ramped up.
Yeah. It was pretty much just me. You know, Mike Purvis was also he was another admin at the time, and you know, he'd help out occasionally. But yeah, it was, you know, it was pretty uneventful leading up to that. You know, it was kind of a I wouldn't say boring, but it was a slow moving last 3 or 4 years leading up to that eruption. And but yeah, the I think it was in the morning of the eruption on May 3rd. Everything changed. I mean, it was just the most surreal, you know, seeing those first images and in the first video of the lava coming out of the ground. I just remember calling my wife into the room and I was like, this is really serious. Everything's changed, you know. And I mean, literally that day on, it was 16 hours a day, early in the morning to late at night. And several nights through those early days, it was hard to go to sleep, you know, because a fissure would go off and there were still people in the neighborhood, and so many people started joining the group that, you know, it was becoming a really big news source, and you started feeling this pressure of a safety, that we were actually getting news out to keep people safe too. And yeah, I think it was within the first couple of weeks, Sarah Wilkinson joined, and then Dane DuPont, and yeah, the team just kind of was formed. So,
and you guys were invaluable. You guys did a great job.
Absolutely.
You know, I remember those first couple of days. It was so that your word for it that you just used is perfect for it. That's the word that I use. Surreal. Yeah. It was absolutely surreal. You looked at what was happening and couldn't believe your eyes. Yeah. You know, it was just so crazy, and it was so in the moment. You know, we think of life as being static, you know, things being the same day after day after day. And that really showed us, hey, you know what? It's changing all the time. You know, so many things happen in such a short period of time. When that first happened on Mohala, and we came home and we edited the stuff, and then, you know, we didn't want to leave. We wanted to stay here. We're on Kupono, so we're probably 6 blocks away from where it started, upslope. So we're thinking, we're okay. And we spent the night that night and didn't get much sleep. And Annie probably can recall this better than I can, but the fire trucks started coming on, the police started coming around in the morning. You know, you must evacuate, you have to get out of your house right now, you know, all this stuff. And Annie says, what do I tell them? I said, tell them we're leaving, but we weren't, you know. And we wanted to stay. And then the next morning, I got a call real early in the morning from Ikaika, and he says, Mick, get down here. It's erupting on Kaupili. And, you know, the day before, the first day, it was a mess. I mean, there were police down there. They were totally intolerant of anybody being there. We finally got in a helicopter and flew it, and it was really hard to work around on the ground. So he said, come down. And I said, well, is there authority down there? And he said, no, nobody's here, just the local residents. So I went down, and it was perfect. You know, I was able to get up really close to the eruption on Kaupili, get some great stuff. We go home, we're editing the stuff for the news, and we're in the edit room, which is separate from our house, and we're talking to CNN, and all these people are calling, and things are going crazy. And we come out of our place, and I could smell smoke. Annie thinks she smelled gas, maybe she did, but we were like, well, okay, apparently we're going to have to go. And our kids were bugging us, you know, have you left yet? Have you left yet? You know, and we're like, yeah, I guess we got to go, you know. So we start packing up all the essentials, the computers and the main things that we need. We go out, we have them in the car, and I have French doors that go into the edit room, and the one door it's open and it's waffling, it's wiggling, and I'm going, what the hell, you know? It's like the wind was blowing it. And I pushed it open, and it came right back to where it was, and it keeps wiggling, waffling. I went, uh-oh, you know, and it maybe 20 seconds later, we're just ready to step in the car. Bam, the 6.9 goes off, and everything is moving. The poles are moving, the cement is moving, the cement's going waves. It was just insane. Everything was wiggling, shaking, falling, crazy. We said, we got to get out of here. We hop in the car, we speed off, and cars are pulling out right and left out of driveways. Everybody's bailing out of Leilani, you know, time to go, time to go. It was really nuts there, really, really nuts. And it didn't lighten up either, actually.
One of the first points of lava coming out was in the backyard of a gentleman who was used to do work on catchments, Stefan. And he said he looked out his back window and there was lava, and it's one of those things, you see it, but your brain can't wrap around it,
Yeah.
you know? And he spun out of there, and, you know, everything was gone within a matter of hours. And at no time, it was interesting. People say, oh my God, you must have been scared. I was never scared. I knew that it was going to be different. I always thought that it was just going to come up a little and then stop, you know? It was 6 blocks down from us and really had no fear, you know? I was out cold at night before the sirens went off. And, you know, it was still pretty lighthearted. I mean, at 7 a.m. after Mick headed down to meet up with Ikaika, we had the singing firemen going up and down the street singing "Good morning." You know, I mean, it was funny. You know, it was so casual. And then, you know, as it slowly starts to unfold and get bigger and bigger and bigger, that's when it kind of like, okay, it can stop now.
Well, the crazy thing is, like, you know, that first fissure opens up on May 3rd, and on the 4th, you've got fissure 2, fissure 3, fissure 4, 5, and 6 all open up. So, like, that thing escalated quickly.
Yep.
Sure did.
And I remember I had booked my flight for May 4th. So, you know, May 3rd, I saw the first eruption, and I'm calling Mick, and I'm saying, did you guys evacuate? No. And I said, wait, I heard on the news it was mandatory. He's like, well, mandatory, they really can't make you leave. And now I'm like, whoa, it's erupting 6 blocks from him, and I'm still going to stay in that house tomorrow? So, unbeknownst to Mick and Ann, I booked Airbnb in Hilo. I got on my flight. I had a layover in Maui. I landed, I turned my phone on, and I hear about the 6.9, and I hear about all the fissures that are going off, and I thought, you know, maybe I'll just hang out in Maui for a week. But I did get a text from Mick's daughter, Ivory. She said, no, they just evacuated. They're going to be staying with me, but I don't have any room for you. I hope you got a place to stay. I said, well, I got 3 nights at an Airbnb. I'll figure it out.
Didn't have any room for you. They didn't have any room for us.
Yeah.
But they took us anyway.
Well, I landed at the airport in Hilo, I don't know, about 4 o'clock, and Mick picks me up. And I said, are you sure you can pick me up? Yeah, I'll pick you up. He rolls in his Volkswagen with the HD lava plates, and I go to get in, and the thing is full to the roof with material belongings, things that he brought from home. And I think the dog was even in there. And like, there's nowhere for me to sit. I said, Mick, where am I going to sit? He goes, I don't know, push some stuff around. I'm evacuating, brah.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh, that was nuts. That's when it hit me. I was like, whoa, what am I doing out here? I didn't sign up for this.
Life turned into every morning you got your boot cam shots off of Bruce's shoe of what was happening. Then you got your interview, and then of course Ikaika would pop up with a morning update, and that was pretty much, you know, I used to say I'd wake up with Ikaika and I'd go to sleep after his updates, you know, with Melissa Lincoln and all of that. I mean, life was through the computers.
And then Dr. Phil and
Yeah, and in
Yes.
between it was Phil
Yes.
and Ryan
Yes.
and Dane.
There
and-
was one incident that, you know, it was interesting having a lot of people suddenly becoming, you know, reporters. And there was one Sunday night that was pretty upsetting for me. There was a couple guys sitting at the Leilani Community Center having beers. and watching the glow in the sky, and from their seats were calling out where they thought the lava was going and what houses might be going up. They weren't seeing these houses going up, but they were just guessing. And by the looks of these people on a live feed that were looking at it, I knew that people were thinking their houses were gone. You know, and it really made me realize, and finally a message got to these guys saying, you're calling shots on stuff you don't know, you know, and it really upset me. You know, you've been given this bit of fame to be able to report live on these things, but with it comes responsibility. And, you know, I take off my hat, Hawaii Tracker and all you guys really did a quick job about covering stuff and doing a really great job of getting that information out in a real respectful way.
Accurately.
Yeah, no, it was, you know, we, in those, especially in those early days, you guys probably remember Chris Burmeister and Heath Chris Dalton. And Heath, yep, and Heath Dalton. Those two in particular, every day, at least a couple times a day, in the morning and the night, they would go around and with a map and actually map, like, so we would have a pretty accurate, you know, line on the map, like how far the lava had come up each street and which houses were still left. And yeah, it was such a team effort. You know, there's so many people, I kind of call them citizen journalists. So many people stepped up to help because it was such an enormous task of trying to stay on top of everything and what was going on. And
quite a conundrum too, because, you know, access to the lava was not easy. Often there was no access. If you lived in Leilani like Mick did, you were fortunate to have access because he was not only a resident, he was a journalist, so he could get some information out. Other residents in Leilani could too. But at one point it's like, you know, how do you draw the line? Who is allowed to report on it? Who isn't? And civil defense is sort of trying to delineate who's allowed in and who's not. There's people going in under false pretenses because they want to, you know, get photos or video and report on it. And it's not all a bad thing. I mean, just because it's illegal doesn't mean it's a bad thing in this case, because you're getting information out that otherwise isn't getting out there.
Yeah. It was one of the most, I think it was one of the most frustrating things, how difficult it was to cover it. And yeah, it was, I think I wrote a post about it at one point that it just made it extra painful because it was, everyone was sitting around watching the neighborhood slowly get swallowed by the lava, but they couldn't, but nobody was allowed to cover it, you know. I mean, so everyone was kind of sneaking around, and it just made it harder, you know, because nobody could see it unfold. And yeah, we did our best, and a lot of people stepped up.
Yeah, it was a difficult situation, you know, for like Mick and myself. We're credentialed journalists, photojournalists, and the County of Hawaii and Civil Defense and USGS, they didn't allow us to go in and do our work.
Yeah.
That's work that needed to be done by professionals. And yeah, they didn't give us the access that we needed.
Yeah.
They made us fly at, what was it, Bruce, 3,000 feet we had to stay?
Yeah, half a mile in the air.
We're shooting, it's like Google Earth, you know?
Yeah.
It was nuts. But you know, what you were just made me think of, Ryan, was that we've had a real paradigm shift when it comes to journalists. And it kind of began here on the island with the 2014 event, because they decided, Oliveira was the civil defense director then, and they decided not to give press passes to people. And, you know, I understood what the problem was. They had all these people that say they're press, you know, and it doesn't matter. I'm working for Johnny's blog, you know, I'm working for USGS, I'm working for ABC News. Well, who's legitimate, who's not legitimate, you know, and who makes that decision? So it's really, really difficult. So they just said, no, we're not going to give it to anybody. And that's kind of, you know, that was the start of that. But Leilani was the result of that. You know, Leilani, they evacuated Leilani, or parts of Leilani, and they only let people that lived in Leilani come in, theoretically. Other people got in, but, you know, it held everybody out. And so the people that should have been there couldn't get there, and a lot of the people that shouldn't be there ended up in there. So it was really crazy, but they really clamped it down, and it was really stupid. It was silly,
Yeah.
but that was the way it was.
Well, you had the National Guard bringing in, I guess, credentialed media at some point later on in the eruption, maybe once a day. I don't know if that's just to pacify everybody or not, but it wasn't much in terms of access.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't. But then, what was it, the 6th, I think? It erupted, and I think it was Fisher 6 on the 6th, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But when that eruption happened, it was the most sizable eruption, and it started going north. Instead of following the line northeast, or east-northeast, it went almost due north. It paralleled our street. That's when I got worried. Because we went, uh-oh, we didn't know that could happen. And that ended up being the river. That ended up being the exact path of the river from Fisher 8 after Fisher 8 reactivated. So it was disturbing, and then ultimately it was the only thing that saved us. Because that river contained the lava, and it didn't spread outside of that. If that river hadn't formed, it would have just spread all over Leilani. It would have taken everything out here. So anyway, that was disturbing.
Is that the moment? Because there was one moment that stuck out to me where Travis Sanders had gone in there and he was on top of a roof. Do you guys remember that piece of footage?
Yeah.
Where he got emotional. That was one of the most surreal. That was a moment. I mean, it was just such an because I think that's what was going on. It was the beginning of the river that we were seeing. It was just one of the most mind blowing pieces of video I've ever seen. Because you're trying to comprehend at the same time you're seeing a house and a backyard and little kid toys, and then you're seeing a raging river of lava right next to it, and it was just crazy.
The 1955 eruption began in Leilani, or at the edge of Leilani, and went down toward Opikau and various different areas over there. But I wasn't really aware of that. I knew there were cinder cones here, but I didn't really realize what was happening. But they said what the initial eruption that happened here was 1955 lava, or even could have been 1924 lava. We didn't even know that could happen. How could lava be down in the ground for 55 years, 50 however many years, and then come out? We were like, oh my God, it's still fluid. How is that possible? But it was really, really thick. Really thick, and it didn't go very far. It was viscous, and it would only hit little area, and then the Pu'uo'o eruption showed up. And the USGS says that it's crossed. It's not a distinct time when it happened. They overlap, 1955 to Pu'uo'o and Pu'uo'o to Halema'uma'o lava. But you can see when you look at what happened, it's kind of like the Pu'uo'o lava went down to the first ocean flow and past PGV. 55 was Fisher 17 and a bunch of them in Leilani. And then when Halema'uma'o hit, that was the reactivation of Fisher 8, more or less. That's kind of broad terms. But, what a difference all that made. And just in terms of enormity, the size of the thing was just crazy.
And I think the lava in those early days, it was different, right? I mean, it was a different consistency. Like, it was slower, more sludgy.
Very viscous.
That was 55.
Yeah, and we were just like, uh-oh, like, what is this? Because I don't remember it because they were talking about it. And we're just like, uh-oh, what does this mean? We still haven't seen anything. Like, it was a very unsettling time because we didn't know what was to come next. Like, if we're seeing this old stuff, what? Yeah. And sure enough, the Pu'uo'o lava came through, and it was fast, more liquid.
Right.
Let's take a quick pause here so we can talk about some of our affiliates, and then we'll rejoin the conversation.
Okay, we have to mention that we may get a small commission from the companies that we endorse, but that's at no cost to you, of course.
As part of our podcast, we launched a website on HawaiianTimePodcast.com, and we use Bluehost, both to buy the domain name and to host the site. Go to the show notes on our website to connect to Bluehost. I highly recommend them.
And in keeping in that theme of blue, we use Blueberry to host our actual podcasts. Right now, you can use our promo code to get your first month of podcast hosting free with Blueberry. The promo code is Hawaiian Time. It's just one word, no spaces, Hawaiian Time. Or visit our website and you'll see the link there in the show notes of the episode page and you can get there that way.
Head over to onhawaiiantimepodcast.com to find all the products we're using to power our podcast. Plus, you can support us by buying some On Hawaiian Time merchandise there too. We've got mugs, t-shirts, stickers, slippers, no baseball hats, and no joints.
Plenty of Hawaiian Time stuff.
Ryan, how like in terms of Hawaii Tracker's traffic, I mean, how much did it explode throughout the eruption? Because you guys have what, over 50,000 people now following you?
Yeah. So I think we added maybe 700 or 1,000 people in the few days leading up to it, because people all of a sudden are like, oh wow, something's up, and they started paying really intense attention to things. The day that it erupted, and we started getting footage and pictures, and we started doing detailed reports of what was going on. It was like 1,500 people a day, and just to back up, like, it used to be this thing where I would manually go on there and see each person's name and click add to group, and I mean, it was just like adding 100 people at a time, 100 people, 100, and it was so overwhelming. It was completely crazy. Yeah, and that went on for, I don't know, a month or two, and it very quickly we were up to 40,000 people. And then obviously it slowed down, at a certain point.
And you guys are doing a California tracker now, right?
Yeah. So we that one we started as just kind of a service during the huge wildfires that were going on down there. We just wanted to find a way, like, hey, could the Hawaii Tracker crew help? Because there's a pretty strong connection between Hawaii and California. A lot of people, live in both places, and a lot of family, and so we started that up during those the huge wildfires. But yeah, and then I also have a Roseburg tracker here in Oregon that I started up, and it's gotten pretty big. I think we've seen the usefulness of the model of curating, high quality, accurate citizen journalism from people in communities, and I think there's something to it. Obviously there's looking out into the years to come, I think there's going to be a shift in the model for journalism. The older model is becoming more and more difficult for it to be sustainable financially. It's so much overhead, and so we're just we spend quite a bit of time just working on figuring out what that's going to look like and how to make it sustainable. Because even like what's going on right now, there's a lot of community newspapers all across the country that are just hanging on by a thread, and it's in the big picture, it's not good for communities to lose quality news sources. So.
And now with this virus, the real news we're getting are the nurses and the doctors in the hospitals talking directly, and they're not going to let news crews in there. We realized as a news, a video production company that shot for the news, that all of a sudden it's like, that footage looks like it's from an iPhone, that it's your news footage now comes from the guy's phone that he happened to be right there and shot the footage. So
well, then that's all you need now. You have an iPhone, you're a reporter, you're a photojournalist. I mean, the quality of an iPhone is extraordinary. It's absolutely amazing. And something that's really impressed me is when I was younger, in order to be on TV, you had to have some chops. I had to kind of be able to present yourself on TV. And now there are so many people that are so good at it that, not even professional people. People are so comfortable now being on TV that it's amazing to me how good most of them are. Not all of them. I mean, there's still some idiots like me, but there's a lot of them. Most of the people that appear on TV are very poised.
Yeah.
They're very calm, and they're able to get get stuff across, and that's really where it's become. It's George Orwell, 1984, except it's 2020. I almost said 19. I'm still back in the 1900s. See, that's how old I am.
One of the things I talk about, everyone's like, how was I able to help cover it so much, being in Oregon, and not actually being on the ground there in Pahoa or in Leilani. And looking back, it was a huge blessing being in Oregon, because when I came out to visit, during the eruption, it was difficult to find any time to actually sit down on my computer and write out reports of what was happening and breakdowns of which streets had gotten covered and, the latest stats and things like that. I couldn't have done it. If I would have been there, I would have been out running around like Ikaika. And that's why Ikaika, he used the medium perfectly. He was doing those live videos. I don't even know if I could have done those, so it was a perfect balance. I mean,
and we took our cues from you guys because, originally, like I said, I came down and we were going to, I was in my mind shifting from, okay, we're not doing this lighthearted reality documentary type web series anymore. We're going to document this eruption, which is going to be, well, at the time we didn't know it was going to be historic, but turns out to be historic. And I say within a few days, we see what you're doing, what Ikaika's doing, and seeing this appetite for these live updates. And we said we have to figure out a way to do it live from the helicopter each morning. And then, Mick obviously is providing amazing video and Bruce is providing amazing photos, but by the time they process those, they're 7 hours old, I should say, 6 or 7 hours old. So we started talking about how do we live stream a GoPro or an iPhone or this or that. And the iPhone was relatively easy, but the quality wasn't great. And we wanted to get audio from the helicopter from these guys talking if we could too. So hence the GoPro, which ended up on a mount on Bruce's boot and became boot cam.
That was an incredible service to the community. I mean, I don't know how many people, hundreds, I don't know if it got into the thousands, but there's so many people would tune into that. And that was, again, every day, that was our first glimpse, what had happened overnight, how far had it moved, where was it going?
What is Bruce's boot seeing?
Yeah.
Well, we tried to get that mounted to your hat or your camera at first, and then it wasn't working.
You wanted to put it on my head, but there's, in the MD500, there's no room. The thing would get knocked around on the door, and then started talking about putting it on my body. Well, I shoot with 3 of them. So which one do you put it? Yeah. Which one do we put it on, And then, I had been doing these, footsies, shots of my feet, right, for a couple of years by that time. And so, that was the best place to put it.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. I remember starting that live feed via the iPhone. So I'd be holding my iPhone and giving everybody a quick look, and then I'd throw it into the pouch.
We're at home. No.
Yeah.
No.
Everybody was either 1, afraid that we crashed or something, or 2, they'd be upset. It's like, why is it all black?
We were sitting there, no, don't put it away. And all of a sudden it'd be gone. We're like, no.
Well, one of the most memorable moments with that boot cam was the flight was over. You guys had landed. We were at Hawaiian style eating pancakes, and Bruce, you got was it a text or a call from Ikaika? Said, "Oh man, that ocean explosion was crazy."
Yeah, it's like, what explosion? And he said, that clip that you posted, the video you posted. So I'm thinking, wait, I don't shoot video. So I said, are you talking about Mick's video? And he goes, no, the video from this morning. And then it dawned on me, boot camp footage, So we're sitting at the breakfast table and looking through our phones for that clip. And then we watch it, and it's like, holy cow.
So you
it's
must
crazy that you guys didn't see it when it happened.
No, I saw the aftermath, right? We're flying over the ocean entry, and where back then we didn't have the TFR over the water. So we're kind of low. And then, every time an explosion would happen or something, you'd see all this upwelling occur in the water. And so, I remember that moment or that flight, and I'm shooting toward the front of the aircraft, like we're looking down the coast and shooting. And I happened to look, see something out of the corner of my eye. And so I looked down to the right, and there's all this turbidity in the water and, this upwelling. It's like, that looks rather disturbing, And then, so we keep flying, and then it happens again. And I tell Mick, I asked Mick, hey, did you see something? He goes, yeah. When we're flying and you try talking to Mick, he's a grump.
Hey, whoa, bruh, whoa.
He mentioned something about he saw something, but, I didn't know at that.
I got it. I knew I got it.
Did you get that explosion?
Yeah.
Did?
And what do you think about life in Leilani now, 2 years later? How are you feeling about being back in your house?
Well, I love it. I mean, after about 2 months of being evacuated, we stopped and kind of went, well, are we going to have to look around? And when I looked around in the different areas on this island, I still wanted to be home. I still really, really love my home in Leilani. So coming back, about the first 6 months, we did nothing but put a lot of energy. I mean, we were 2 weeks away from putting a new roof on our house, so we re-roofed our house and back out in the gardens, and I really love it. It's interesting in that we are now a cul-de-sac. You can't go through Leilani. There also talk of the different roads they're going to be putting in, the Poiki Road. They're talking about putting in on that list. They also listed Leilani Avenue, which is kind of mind-boggling to be going through the mouth of Fissure 8.
That ain't gonna happen.
It's good. There are still, the community in general has come together, and there are still people that are, what do I want to say, PTSD. Everything, when something happens, it's a bit of a shock, and it's what's going to be taken from us, or what is, what's happening. But in general, I think I got to know our neighbors a lot more. We'd been in our home for 2 years, and we knew some of our neighbors, but all of a sudden we were having daily communications with neighbors as the eruption got on, and still have that today. So it's good. I love Leilani. It's a beautiful community, and thankful that the lava stopped. And know that it's a matter of time. I mean, that's got to be the facts. It's a matter of time. Hopefully, I won't be alive. And but it is. It's a strong community.
Hey, Ann, there was a video I remember you taking of your property at one point when you thought it was going to be the last time you were going to see your property in your house. Because I was living with you and Mick as we were all evacuated to another home in Hilo, and you had shared the video with me, and then I knew it was supposed to be a private video, but eventually you shared it on Facebook, and it got quite a response. It was pretty emotional. Why did you end up sharing that, and what was the intent of that video originally?
Originally, I felt like, could this be the last time I would come to my home? Makes me tear up just thinking about it. And I love this place so much, but I know that it originally came through lava, and if lava was going to take it again, I was okay with that. I was in acceptance of the gift that I had been given already. And what was going to come, I couldn't stop it. So I wanted to honor my home, and I walked the property and talked about it and all the things I was grateful for, and then I just held on to it. And then someone contacted me and said there was a group on Facebook coming together that wanted to share things that only people of Puna would understand, only, that would talk about the process people were going through. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll post it on there. And then once it went on to that, people asked if they could share it. And I was open to sharing that. But it was something that was originally done for myself to share with family and friends. And just something I needed to do in my process of dealing with what was going on.
Do you mind if I share that with our podcast listeners
No
right
problem. So this is the last load that I think of our stuff. I doing my last walk around of our beautiful property. It's a little burnt, you can tell by the sulfur gases. I need to say goodbye. I need to give my thanks and appreciation for all that we have here. I've come and brought Pele a gift. It's not gin, but it is vodka. And I picked the most beautiful flowers in the garden just for her. And she will take the other flowers and everything else that she wants should she come through. But I am so thankful for what we have been able to do here on this property and all that we've been given. So, who knows? Acceptance, one day at a time.
Oh man, because this, at this point, it was just every day. It was speculation. Was it enough lava coming down? What was going to happen next? And eventually it channeled, and once it channeled, it just ran. And
Yeah, for 2 months.
yeah,
Yeah.
But I've never seen a flow front like that flow front that had multiple fingers in it. That flow front is a 1/4 mile wide.
Yeah, that channel actually became a perch channel, yeah?
Yeah, it did. You're right.
At its widest point, it was probably over 1,000 feet where it
Yeah.
made that bend in Leilani
Yep.
before it started flowing downhill and traveling faster. I mean, every day we'd fly over that perch channel, and
yeah,
it's mind-blowing, man. You see
Yeah.
that. Massive.
That lava flow at Fisher 8 was 8 miles away from Kapoho. And the people in Kapoho actually were warned 10 days before that happened. But nobody believed them.
yeah,
And a few people took a few things out. But when it actually started coming down 132, they only had 3 days.
yeah,
And really probably only 2 days that they could evacuate. It was too late. It was too late. And we couldn't believe that they rushed down there and took Kapoho beach lots in 1 day.
yeah.
Almost every single house in 1 day. And then a pause for 1 day, and then vacation land the next day. It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds of houses down there.
Yeah.
That was just stunning to me.
Yeah, I'd probably say that was the heaviest. I think it was the heaviest moment of the whole eruption, because it was what I think that first day was like 300 homes, something like that.
Something like that.
And then not only that, but it was one of the crown jewels of the island. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
and then yeah, like you said, it was a compounding the pain, knowing that people, all their possessions were in their animals. I mean,
Yep.
and it just happened so quick. Yeah, it was just, yeah, that was a hard moment.
It was.
'Cause we
That
just-
and the hot pond too.
Yeah,
Places that everybody here loved.
yeah,
And then we held our breath waiting to see with Poiki, and now you go down and you just see that wall and you go, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was-
Thank you.
that the Pohiki one, that was, everybody was all. I mean, I remember going to bed one night and we just. I remember here, like the whole family came in and we were all emotional about it. We thought it was done. We went to bed that night just because we knew it was pumping. And if it didn't stop, it was gone by morning. And sure enough, some point early in the morning, it had stopped. And I remember that next morning, Ikaika had come around the corner in his boat. That's where we got that first glimpse. Like, it's still there. We were just like celebrating. And like, I mean, that was a pretty unbelievable moment. Like, that. It stopped at the precise moment it needed to not swallow the rest of Puiki. Now, obviously, the sand has filled in things, which is a pretty big bummer. But, I mean, yeah, the timing of it was pretty incredible.
Oh, there's so much sand that will still come down there.
Yeah.
That that from going in the ocean north of there, all that sand is still filtering down. That beach is just wider than wide now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Where it used to kind of be a crescent, it's now almost straight across.
Yeah, yeah, it's wiped out all of first, second bay, like completely all the way down. It's just gonna go. It's a straight line all the way to third bay.
But you're a surfer, right, Ryan?
Yeah, it's honestly, so it was incredible that it got saved, but it took it took the surf spot, and it was yeah.
But isn't there a new one now around the corner?
I haven't. Well, so there's third bay, and I think that's where everyone's going. So
Yeah, I heard it was pretty good, but who knows?
Yeah.
That may get crazy too.
Yeah, the sobering thing is if you're right and it's still the sand's still coming down, it'll eventually take third, because that's what it's doing. It's coming around that corner and just washing it right down.
Well, we watched that happen when the flow went in the ocean in the 80s and 90s. We watched all the ocean entries, and that sand would go. It filled in Kamoamoa. It built a quarter mile wide beach where there was no beach before.
Wow.
So the amount of lava, and this amount of lava is way more than that.
Yeah.
Way more.
Yeah.
Crazy. There are so many beaches along that coast now. It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's too bad there's no reef underneath to hold them. Otherwise it would be fantastic. But
Yeah.
there's still some pretty cool places.
Yeah.
One of the most remarkable things when you go down to Pohiki now is the lava wall that's hardened and is about 30 feet high and is butted right up against a picnic area and a grill. It almost looks like something that someone created, an artist created. It's just out of another world. And you could sit at that picnic table and I think you could still use that grill,
Yeah.
but the lava is like pushing right up against that grill. It's crazy. What a scene.
Yeah, it really puts it in perspective because and the same thing, right? A little bit more towards the ocean where the old showers were. I think the shower head is still there, and the lava's 20 feet above it. It's incredible.
What are the thoughts on what's happening now 2 years later? We've got one of the highways, 132, that's been redozed and opened again, and more roads to be opened as they are talking now. What do you see for now for Leilani in this area and the future of this area? Lava Zone 1.
I know driving down 132 for the first time and suddenly realizing this is the middle of that raging river. It just blew my mind. It made me gasp, It was unbelievable to think of what these aerial views that I'd been looking at were suddenly, this was once a raging river.
Yeah, my first drive down there, it looked familiar because we had flown over it so often, but the sheer size of that lava channel, I mean, all I could think was, holy shit, this thing is massive. And the 132 cuts through the lava channel just above that island, that first big island in the middle of that channel, the braided channel, they used to call it. And so that was where the channel was actually narrow. The lava was flowing downhill and faster. So, compared to that massive perch channel in Leilani, that was really narrow. But it still was, several hundred feet across.
Oh, it's huge. It's still huge. Sure.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah, well, flying from 3,000 feet up in the air and then being down the ground is night and day,
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was large to really get a feel for how literally how wide it was,
Well, we couldn't have gotten pictures of it if it had been smaller from that distance. We were too far away. But, because it was enormous, then we were actually able to get some decent shots.
I think Pahoa is slowly coming back, but, there's still now the coronavirus situation and stores and restaurants closing down. It's once again taking a big hit, Will it come back? Will it not? I know that the hub was such a big part of saving and supporting our community that it may, it's going to once again take the community coming together to support it to come back.
The hub was the relief center that Ikaika was instrumental in helping start up during the eruption, that handed out lots of food and clothing and just a place where people could get together and get information.
I mean, what do they say now is happening currently with the volcano?
Yeah, I think it's Mauna Loa and still, monitoring what's going on up there at the national park. Yeah, it's anybody's guess at this point. I mean, something's going to happen, sometime soon. I don't think things are going to be boring for much more than another year or two.
Something will happen eventually, but Ryan, I'm not so sure you're going to see it for a while. I doubt seriously it's going to happen this year.
Yeah.
And maybe not even next year. Yeah, she put out everything she had.
Yeah.
The bathtub is empty.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be, yeah. I think that was our big thing. It was like, okay, how long is it going to take for things to refill, And so we have our guesses are written down when we're going to see lava next. I think mine is 2021, maybe June.
Mick, don't you have $100?
I
bet
do.
with somebody about this?
Jason Chan and I bet $100, and I will see Jason's Benjamin next January. Because it's not going to happen this year.
That's funny.
Oh, man.
Well, Ryan, you guys are still doing an amazing job with the coverage of COVID-19. Dayton DuPont seems like he's live 23 and a half hours a day on Hawaii Tracker.
He's amazing.
And he's burning it at both ends.
Amazing.
So we're thankful for that.
And glad to see that you got the recognition from Facebook so big, but from other organizations that have stepped up to say, and honor you guys for the hard work you've done. We really, really appreciate it.
Yay, Hawaii Tracker!
Yeah. No, that was awesome. Yeah, I know. Those guys have been, and I apologize for not being around recently. I just, this latest disaster, the COVID disaster, it's been unique because it's everywhere at once, in our community here, just as much as the community out there. And so I've definitely been spending a lot more time, covering it here. But yeah, the team's been awesome covering things out there. And yeah, we look forward to the day when things calm down a little bit. We'd rather cover lava.
Yeah, but not in our backyard, okay?
No, not in the backyard. Yeah, somewhere else.
Well, I think this is a good place to wrap this episode up. Unless anybody else wants to throw some more in there, I'm open to that. But
it's been great.
So wait, you gotta let me do my joke now, okay?
Oh, I thought we were gonna get out of this one.
Oh, come on, give me a break. You know where you take somebody that's been injured in a peekaboo accident?
No.
I see you.
Boo. I see. Boo.
Oh, come on. I'd like to thank Ryan Finlay for joining us, and thanks for all of our wonderful participants. Good to see you guys. Thanks a lot, Ryan. Aloha.
Ryan.
Aloha.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so that's going to do it for this episode. But before we go, we need a favor from you guys.
Please go to our website on HawaiianTimePodcast.com. You can click on the contest link up on the top there, and we're going to make it easy for you to subscribe to this podcast. You go to the contest page. There's some options there. You click on subscribe to Apple or Google, or you can put the secret word in from the first 3 episodes. If you don't know the secret words, you have to listen to the first 3 episodes. And one lucky listener is going to win a $100 Amazon.com e-gift card in participating countries.
I want to win.
No, employees and families cannot win. Families of employees.
And we got some cool merch there. Shirts, slippers, coffee mugs, and more. Check it out.
Big mahalo to our logo designer, Joel Marcus of M Inc., and to Jamie Colazzo of Silverline Sound. Mahalo, guys.
This is kind of an experiment now, you guys. We'll leave it up to you to decide if it becomes an ongoing series. But we can't do it without you. So help spread the word. Hui ho. I'm Mick Kalber.
I'm Bruce Omori.
I'm Ann Kalber.
I'm Tim Coakley.
And you've been on